Helltides are some of Diablo IV's best open-world content, but what exactly are they? Well, you can think of a Helltide as an excuse to slaughter hundreds, if not thousands, of demons in a very short 1-hour time span. And unlike your normal demonic slaughter, such as you'd find out in the open world anyway, or when completing nightmare dungeons, Helltides have special rewards. So there's something that you'll want to do, both when your character's first gearing up, and as your gear approaches perfection, to get more materials to reroll things at the occultist, which then costs you tens of millions of gold, so that you can go broke even faster. So to start off, when a Helltide rises, the zones get kind of a hellish or demonic look to them. 2 zones will be affected, and all monsters within the zones drop cinders. This means if you're doing any sort of encounter, just fighting random mobs in the world, they can drop cinders. Completing missions for the Tree of Whispers, they can drop cinders. Participating in a world event, those can drop cinders, and in fact, they're an extremely good way to get cinders for your Helltide. Occasionally, you'll also see fire rain from the sky, and that means it's time to fight a boss, or a mini-boss, actually. There is a Helltide boss, which is an actual thing, has a bunch of health, jumps around, is really annoying, and ultimately isn't worth it. Mini-bosses drop a bunch of cinders, and are very good. The more demons you kill, and the faster you kill them, the more cinders that you get. But don't get too greedy, because you lose a significant amount of your cinders on death. So while Helltides are one of your best ways to gear up when entering a new world tier, it can be a little dangerous, so you should play carefully or bring a friend. As another small tip, certain objects also spawn within the world, tortured souls. These can glow red. During a Helltide, when an object glows red, you should probably click or destroy it because it's going to spit out some cinders. This goes for monsters as well. Okay, actually you should probably just destroy those most of the time. Now earlier, I alluded to 2 crafting materials. Those are Forgotten Soul and Fiend Rose. These are used to upgrade items to level 5, and used to swap item stats over at the Occultist, which is a very important part of Diablo IV's endgame gearing. And as a quick note, if you've been enjoying the gameplay so far and want to know more about my build, then do be sure to check out my Ice Shard sort guide after this video. Link will be up in the card and down in the description. But Forgotten Soul and Fiend Rose aren't the only reason to do a Helltide. There are also the Helltide chests. These cost cinders to open and have a high chance of rewarding ancestral items and even unique items. But there's a few different types of chest. First up, Tortured Gift of Protection. These cost 75 cinders to open and can give helmets, gloves, legs, chests, or boots. The item type will appear as a little hovering icon over the chest, and all of these chests appear on your minimap. Next up, you have Tortured Gift of Jewelry. These can either be rings, which cost 75 cinders, or amulets that cost 125. Third, you have Tortured Gifts of Weapons. One-handers cost 125. They can give you main hands, offhands, whatever your class can use that is a one-handed weapon. And then heavy armaments, which cost 150 cinders and give you two-handed weapons exclusively. Now last but not least, there's the extremely rare and valuable Mystery Chest. This gives you lots of legendaries and can give you up to 4 unique items. It costs 175 cinders to open, and unlike all the previous chests, it doesn't show up on the world map by default. It will only show up if you get close. Luckily, there is a way to see it more easily, which I'll get to in just a little bit, so stay tuned. Now, whenever you're progressing through a Helltide and collecting cinders, your priority on what to open should be number 1, Mystery. Since they are incredibly valuable, they give tons of materials and have the highest chance for unique items, as far as I know out of anything in the game. Then, anything you need. If you're missing good gloves, then open protection for gloves. If you're missing a ring, open jewelry for a ring. If you're missing a two-hander, open heavy weaponry for a chance at that. Third up, if you're just trying to get legendary item fodder, or you simply want to have an efficient use for your cinders, open any of the 75 cinder chests, then any of a 125 with anything left over, and any of a 150 with anything left over after that. Though realistically, you really shouldn't find any situations where you run out of 75 chests after opening the mystery chests. And at this point, I'm sure you're about ready to rush out and go do a Helltide. Unfortunately, you might not be able to, because Helltides are active for 1 hour, and then they go on cooldown for 1 hour and 15 minutes. They always spawn in 2 random adjacent zones. There's 1 mystery chest per zone, and mystery chests change on the hour, meaning most of the time, if you collect 700 cinders, you'll be able to get 4 chests within your Helltide. But like I mentioned before, mystery chests don't show up on the world map, so they can be a little complicated to track down. Luckily, while their locations are randomized, they're randomized within specific spawn points. And even better, There's a website that you can use to track them called Helltides.com. Special thanks to Riker. Because of his 4 Diablo resources that you need, I found out about the Helltides.com website. I'm going to link his video up in the card and down below. You should absolutely check it out after this one if you want to know what the other 3 resources are. Also, while you're down there, get subscribed, and when you head over to Riker, subscribe to him too, because he's pretty darn awesome. Helltide.com has a tracker for the Helltide. It'll tell you when it's up and when it's down. Plus, if you sign in, you can vote on mystery chest locations. Because this uses vote aggregation and displays whatever has the most popular votes, it would take a pretty determined trolling effort to actually give the wrong information. So, thus far, it's been correct 100% of the time. A large number of people will vote on a chest as soon as they find it. This happens typically within a couple seconds because there's a lot of people playing Diablo IV, and you can use that to find exactly where the mysteries are. From there, all you have to do is look for events, look for groups of enemies. If you can find a Gathering Legion, that's the absolute best way to get cinders. But really, any event that involves slaughtering a lot of demons is great. Maybe grab a friend to split up, since as long as you're in reasonable proximity, you can drop cinders for them, they can drop cinders for you. Then go on a murder spree, open some chests, and get your epic loot. So far, I found Helltides to be a great way to gear up a character, because here's a pro tip. If you just got to World Tier 4, then you're absolutely being crushed by the difficulty since you have 0 ancestral items. Drop down to World Tier 3. Do your Helltide, collect a bunch of cinders. Then go to Kyovashad, swap to World Tier 4. Now, go open all the chests in your Helltide. You'll get a ton of ancestral items, it's the best way to gear up, and you don't have to actually kill World Tier 4 monsters. I know, sure, there might be a few on the way to the chest you'll have to be careful of that. From my experience, a bunch of players are usually around, fighting and murdering stuff for cinders themselves, so it doesn't tend to be too big of a deal. That way, it's a great way to use Helltides as a little bit of a boost for your alt. And even if you're pretty darn geared, Helltides are valuable, because number 1, they seem to be a really good source of unique items, and number 2, they drop the materials, Fiend Rose and Forgotten Soul, which you need not only to upgrade items to level 5, but also to replace affixes via enchanting the Occultist. My only complaint with Helltides is that they're a timed activity. I can't do it whenever I want, and sometimes I find the timing to be a little inconvenient. Speaking of, I should probably wrap up this video, because there seems to be a Helltide in about 10 minutes, and I definitely don't want to miss it. But that's the thing, I'm genuinely excited to do Helltides, which make me excited to be in the open world. So personally, I hope that Season 1 brings another mechanic like this, something that gives you a reason to live within the world and interact with things, rather than treating the world as just an inconvenience on your way to the next nightmare dungeon. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Helltides and the world of Diablo IV? And did any of the information in this video teach you something you didn't already know? Be sure to let me know down in the comments below. And of course, before I go, a special thanks to my patrons and channel members for their continued support. Even $1 a month does more to directly support me than watching every ad on every video I've ever made. As it turns out, yes, ads do pay that low per individual view. With that said, if you're looking for something else to watch, there should be a recommendation on screen right now. You can check out my Ice Shard Sork build guide or Riker's video for some more great Diablo content. Or if you prefer reading, be sure to check out the guides over at Maxwell GG. With that said, thanks for watching, hope you learned something, and I hope to see you again sometime soon.